boot camp and they say, keep going, keep going. Sucks, huh? I don't like it, but here's how we're going to find out which girls are actual candidates for the same night lay. There's 5 questions you need to ask in every interaction. If you go out with me, I'm going to be drilling you on these 5 questions. Did you ask these? Did you ask these? Because this is how you're going to find out. Number 1 and number 2, you've heard them before, and they're kind of interrelated, so I'm going to address them at the same time. Got, who are you here with, and how do you know each other? You guys have all heard this. This is basic stuff. But why do we need to know this? Who's she here with? Say she's sitting there by herself. Women rarely go out to clubs by themselves. Sometimes they do, and if they do, if you find a girl that's out by herself, that's about as likely of a logistical candidate as you can find. So escalate like crazy with that girl. But chances are she's going to be there with her girlfriend. She might be there with some guys. She might be there with her brother. She might be there with a boyfriend. She might even be there with a guy that she's on a first date and she doesn't like the guy. But is she going to go home with you? Probably not. I mean, it could happen. Maybe if you're really, really amazing, that could happen. But there's going to be better candidates out there. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. And by the way, if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand at any time, and I'll slow down or I'll answer. So, yes?
This can also be answered later if you want to answer it out.
No. Let's.
I'm just curious. Like, if your logistics aren't bad, how would you still push for like an SNL?
You know, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but here's what you're going to do. Say that you like the girl, she's fun, she's cute, all those things that you're looking for, but the logistical criterion, she doesn't fit. Get her number. I'm going to tell you what you're going to do a little bit later in the presentation, what you're going to do with that as kind of your insurance policy, as your backup.
Also, I meant like if you still want to push for the SNL without like...
Yeah, I'm going to get to that.
Like, oh, okay.
Basically, get her number. And that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be asking these questions. If she doesn't fit into this criteria, get her number. And then move on. There's no sense wasting all night because there's nothing worse than, and raise your hand if you've had this happen. You're talking to a girl, everything's awesome, like you're just getting along, there's that flirty vibe, it's fun. You're like, God, I like this girl, I can't wait to take her home, and it seems like it's gonna happen, and then what happens at the end of the night? Oh, my boyfriend's here, gotta go. Anybody had that happen? Fucking sucks, doesn't it? I think there's nothing worse than like having that whole night wasted when you could have been talking to girls that were able to go home. So, how do you know each other? You just need to know the relationship. You need to know if this is the brother, if this is the girlfriend, or this is the sister of the girl's boyfriend, like happened to him and I the other day. You need to know these kind of things. It's going to determine, because if they're friends, you can win over the friends and make this happen. If it's her boyfriend or she's on a first date, probably not. How did you get here? And this is especially important if you're on the West Coast. I'm not sure how it is here on the East Coast as much, but in the West Coast, everybody drives. Everybody has a car. They go to the bar. You know, on the East Coast, I guess they take public transit and stuff. They can get there other ways, take cabs, that kind of stuff. But you need to find out the driving situation. Reason being, you need to know how she's going to get home at the end of the night. If she's got all of her girlfriends and she drove, it's going to be a little bit trickier to make it happen. You can make it happen, but it's going to be a lot trickier. If she drove herself, she's by herself, it's going to be that much easier for her to be able to go home. This one right here, this one's important. What are your plans for later? This one sounds like a pretty innocent question, right? Sounds pretty innocent. But this is about as close as you can get to like a secret code. This is basically saying, do you want to fuck later? In women's minds. And if you've heard a woman ask you this, that's basically what she's saying, give or take. So you need to know what her plans are for later. The best answer is like, I don't know, what are you doing? That's a very big green light. She says, I don't know, you can still work with that. She says that she has to get up, okay, well, see exactly what's going on. That's why the 5th one is important, because what time do you have to get up in the morning? If she's got to be to class or to work at 4 in the morning, chances are you're not going to be able to pull that. Plain and simple. I mean, some girls would lose a job over a guy, and if she would, I would question whether she's the kind of girl you'd want to hook up with, but Most girls aren't going to lose their job over hooking up, so you need to know that one, okay? So you go through these questions, you find out if she fits in, then you're free to proceed. Now, there's actually a little bit of an alternative to this question because I live in Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, it doesn't really make any sense to ask, how'd you get here? What time do you have to get up in the morning? But what you can do, if you're ever in Las Vegas, and who doesn't love Las Vegas, it's the SNL capital. You're going to want to ask what hotels she's staying in, and it might actually even be the same here in Orlando since it's so touristy, but where is she staying and who's she staying with? That way you can find out the room situation and if that's possible or if you have to pull her back to your place. So if you're ever in Vegas, keep that in mind. Okay, so we've got that. We've found a logistical candidate, and now this is where the real work comes in. We need to start building sexual tension. So let's talk a little bit about what sexual tension is. Basically, it's the gap or the boundary between things that you want to do and what you can actually do. The things that you want to do, but the gap in between what you can actually do. So let's talk a little bit about how you can create this. And I've come up with two main ways that this is created, and they're kind of reciprocal. There's one way is you can create it by having a very sexually charged internal state, but you're talking neutral. You're talking about puppy dogs or whatever. You're talking about her job. Neutral things. In that gap between you talking normal and on the inside, here's what I do. I imagine her giving me the most amazing blowjob on the fucking planet. I just see her head bobbing up and down and those little eyes looking up. That's what I'm thinking. That creates this internal state that is kind of confusing. Have you ever been around somebody who's in a bad mood and you find yourself, maybe you were in a good mood, but all of a sudden, fuck the world. You're in that same bad mood. Women are even more susceptible to this than you are. So the fact that she can sense on the internal you are being very sexual, but you're talking neutral, it just confuses her and causes that gap to occur. Now, the converse is also true. You can be overtly sexual, and this is a lot of what I like to do is say stuff that are completely overtly sexual. Stuff like, you know, it's too bad we're in a bar, or I would take you right here on this couch and just fuck the shit out of you, but we're in a bar, so we can't do that. Now, if I were to say that and be really turned on or really sexually charged, especially early in the interaction, she's going to get creeped out. It's going to weird her out. A lot of how indirect methods started in the first place is because a lot of guys were kind of creepy, weird, and they were needy. So they needed to go indirect just to kind of camouflage this. But I'm going to tell you right now, you can open with sexual stuff. I do it all the time. In fact, that is one of the things that I found that works really well. But when you do that, you got to make sure that you are internally neutral so that you don't give off any vibe that you're sexually needy, creepy, or weird. Does that make sense? Everybody? Yeah? Okay. So this is how you create it. Now we're going to talk about a tool that has been talked about quite a bit and a lot of people don't understand as much. So we're going to talk about sexual framing.